stuff back roads of Illinois. We were bringing latest agricultural news and markets update on back roads of Illinois. Bring you like inside of the markets and interview with people in the agricultural industry for farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and across the Midwest. Today's edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We were Central Illinois agriculture source, and in the Midwest alongside in Central Illinois agriculture, we were glad you're here on a Tuesday afternoon. We were going to talk about the harvest progress in Champaign County and Central Illinois, which is a pretty beautiful day outside for this harvest season in Central Illinois. Otherwise, we were talking on this with Greg Johnson from TGM Markets, part of FS Grown Mark in Champaign. We were talking about the commodities markets with Clayton Pope from Pope Commodities in Champaign as well. We'll have a discussion with them about the commodities markets on today's program. I am not available on Thursday and Friday afternoon, but I will be back on Monday afternoon on the show. Otherwise, we are watching for the World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimate report on this Thursday, and a happy birthday to my dad on Thursday. Otherwise, this time is serious about your agricultural news and information. The Hurricane Milton will be turning into Category 5 hurricane. This will be in Tampa and in St. Petersburg, Florida. Hurricane was reported on the wind up to 192 miles per hour in the Gulf Coast of Florida for right now. The World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimate report is coming out for this Thursday. This is open bell numbers of the commodity markets from Kyle Bumstead from Allendale Inc. Corn futures are down at 5 to 10 cents. Soybean futures are up to 8 to 9 cents half. Wheat futures are up to 8 to 9 cents quarter. This is your livestock markets update sponsored by Kyle Bumstead from Allendale Incorporated. Cattle futures are up to 9 to 5 cents. Feeder cattle are up to 8 to 10 cents. Lean hogs are down to 4 to 6 quarter. Crude oil are up to 9 to 10 cents per barrel. Dow Jones are up to 9 points. This been the markets on this morning. I'm sorry. Soybean futures are down at 5 to 6 cents. Lean hogs are up. With us.
Thanks, Caesar. It's good to be with you.
Could you tell our listeners about this harvest season?
Sure, Caesar. We started corn planting in the spring, probably 3 weeks later than normal. We had a cool, wet April, and a lot of farmers are now planting soybeans first ahead of the corn. So while the soybean planting progress was normal, the corn planting progress was probably 2 to 3 weeks behind. And that has continued all during the growing season. So we're seeing corn moistures still elevated in the mid to upper 20% level. and farmers are hoping for that corn to dry down closer to 20% or less before they really get going on corn harvest. So corn harvest is probably only 10% done here in Champaign County, whereas the soybeans are every bit of 50% done. I think we hit 50% earlier this week. The weather is just beautiful. We haven't had much rain. We had a little bit of a sprinkle last Monday, Tuesday, which kept us out of the field for a day or two. But ever since then, it's been full speed ahead, and farmers are making tremendous progress on the soybeans and waiting for the corn to dry down.
What is the yields for right now? Did you hear about the beans yields first?
Sure, the soybean yields are phenomenal. Most of the beans around here are in the 70s or 80s. Occasionally, we'll have somebody in the low 90s, but a lot of 75 to 85 bushel yields, which is going to be a record. We had very good yields last year, and I think this year we're probably going to be 2 to 3 to 4 bushels better than last year, and last year was a record. So we're anticipating, if as long as the last half of the crop yield maintains what the first half did, we're anticipating record soybean yields here in not only Champaign County, but probably also for the whole state of Illinois.
Greg, the cash market is in a tight spot for right now. What are the bases for right now?
The bean basis is starting to weaken. A lot of elevators are starting to fill up, as you can imagine, with these better than expected yields. So the bins are full, and a lot of the elevators are starting to fill up, and it's hard to get trains in a timely fashion. So we're starting to see a little bit of a weaker basis when it comes to soybeans. The corn basis has not weakened yet, only because we haven't gotten into the harvest yet. But I anticipate if the corn yields are as good as what the bean yields are, then we'll probably see the corn basis weaken eventually too, once we get into harvest in mid-October. But for now, bean basis is definitely taking a weaker turn. Corn basis is hanging in there steady.
Do you have any concerns about soybean basis for right now?
Well, we've been encouraging farmers to make sure that they have a home for their soybeans and to lock in the basis. It doesn't feel like it's going to get better until after harvest. Once harvest is over, then the soybean basis will improve tremendously. But right now, there's about a 30-cent carry in the cash market between fall and January. So the markets are telling farmers and elevators to figure out a way to store those beans somewhere because they'll pay them 30 to 35 cents more come January versus what they'll pay them right now.
Do you have any final thoughts or recap of our conversation?
Well, I would just encourage farmers to continue to put offers in. I know the prices aren't where they would like them to be, but the yields are so much better than what they were expecting that I think maybe the bigger bushels will offset that lower price to some extent. So we've had $4 cash corn here in Champaign last week, and we had $10 cash beans even this week. So I know 4 and 10 isn't very exciting, but with the kind of yields we have, hopefully farmers can make a go of that and make a profit at those kind of levels with the better yields. So I would encourage farmers to get offers in and get some grain sold, at the $4 and $10 levels.
Thanks, Greg.
You're very welcome, Caesar.
We will talk about the World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimate report on Friday morning. Here's that with Clayton Pope from Pope Commodities in Champaign. Welcome back to the show.
Hello, Caesar. Good to be back.
There's a lot to. But first, let's start with our conversation about the World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimate report on Thursday's morning. could you tell our listeners about the corn carryout?
Okay. The average trade guess is looking for something about a 60 or 70 million bushel reduction in the corn carryout. Um, that's really expected to come by from maybe a slight increase in some of the demand categories like exports, possibly, maybe feed usage. But pretty minor change all in all. As far as the yield component goes, we were a little surprised to see the average trade guess is looking for a tenth of a bushel decrease in the corn yield down to 183.5. That's kind of flies in the face of what we're hearing from our customers and reading on Twitter and so forth, where seems like so many people are talking about yield surprises on the upside. So we would have guessed that the average trade guess would be looking for an increase in the yield, but they're saying they're looking for it to basically be flat.
What was your thoughts on the acreage report from last week?
As far as the wheat numbers go, really not much change. No surprises there. I don't think acreage is really a question anymore. It's at this point, it's all about determining what the final yield is here in the U.S. and with harvest. Really, as yesterday's numbers said, we're only 30% harvested in corn. So the numbers that they do come out with tomorrow will be pretty preliminary still. Beans are about half harvested. And so there too, we're still, dialing in on the numbers. So, this is still a work in progress very much. But I think the yields here in the U.S. will be a big deal in the next few months. But probably even a bigger deal, more potential for surprises would probably be Brazilian weather as we go forth, especially impacting beans at first, but corn too. And right now, boy, there's no reason to think there's any problems down there. Their drought season extended a little bit longer than expected, or a little bit longer than normal. But the monsoon season seems like it's picking up now, maybe a week or two later than normal, but it's still not problematic. They'll really be starting to plant very quickly now their soybean crop, and but watching that unfold in the next 60 days will be important to the market, I think. But we're kind of in that period here where after we get those yield numbers Friday. There's not going to be a lot more input into these markets as far as fundamentals go for a while. Of course, watching the export pace with China will always be something to keep an eye on. But, you know, that first month or two of crop development in South America is probably not too important or too exciting. It's going to be when it gets later on in their summer, it's going to be more important, but that won't be till January.
Clayton, could you explain to our listeners about the missile defense from Russia to Ukrainian ship? We heard from the morning.
Yeah, I'm not really too familiar with that. The I mean, the war goes on over there, and so far, the whole Black Sea issue, which you would have thought, if you had a crystal ball before that whole war started over there, you would have thought it would have been really bullish wheat and maybe corn to a lesser degree, just because of the risk factor you think they'd want to put into prices in terms of Russia's ability and Ukraine's ability to, ship their production out. But it's really been a non-issue. Every once in a while, you get a little scare going. And then I guess there's some story this morning that you're referring to, but it seems like just more of the same, really. It's not going to be enough to really rattle the markets. Obviously, the market didn't care too much about it today. I mean, wheat was up 2, corn down 5. So, uh, as of right now, it kind of strikes me as pretty much of a non-event in terms of its effect on our markets.
How is the Chicago wheat?
Well, it's awful dry. They're going through their planting now, maybe coming up on what I believe it's 40 or 50% planted or something like that. Um, It's drier than normal, but it's hard to get this wheat market excited in this early stage of the game. I mean, the old saying is you can kill that crop two or three times before it's harvested, and usually comes out fine. So it's again that whole wheat market, as far as U.S. Effect on prices, probably pretty minimal at this point. But I think the Chicago wheat contract is affected more right now by the perception of what's going on with Russia's ability to keep shipping. Some people think that they're getting a little bit low on supplies. They really got their foot on the world market prices. Um, Argentina's been a little bit of a concern with the dryness down there, but they're getting rains as we speak. Australia is still dry. That's a little bit friendly, I guess, to prices, but all in all, nobody's too excited about it. So add it all together, and uh, just nothing to really raise your eyebrows over right now. It just seems like Russia continues to, hold these world prices down. And as long as they're able to export, then it's going to be difficult to engineer too much of a wheat rally, we would think.
Do you have any final thoughts or recap of our conversation?
Well, I think you got to kind of play it real conservatively right now until we get a better handle on what these yields are. But I think you want to sell rallies. Obviously, we just had a really good one up until about a week ago, and now everything's really pulled back pretty well. If you happen to get some kind of pop on Friday because of some yield surprise, I would probably reward it with some sales, because the bottom line is it's going to be difficult, we think, to engineer anything real bullish as far as the yield surprise goes. So we think the path of least resistance here during the harvest period still is a little bit lower, but longer term, we're positive. We think exports are likely to improve, but not expecting any great things on the upside, though, we got to say.
Thanks, Clayton.
Okay, my pleasure, Caesar. You take care.
This is close bell numbers of the commodity markets from Kyle Bumstead from Allendale Inc. January feeder cattle plus $1.275. Closing $247.450. December live cattle plus $850, closing $187.875. December lean hogs plus $350, closing $177.175. December corn minus 5 single quote 2, closing at $4.20 single quote 6. January soybeans minus 18 single quote 0, closing at $10.34 single quote 4. December Chicago wheat plus 2 single quote 2, closing at $5.94 single quote 6. December KC wheat plus 0 single quote 4, closing at $6.03 single quote 6. January feeder cattle and January soybeans are soon to be most active, so I'm using them for the closes. Closing quotes provided by Kyle Bumstead Branch Office Manager Erickson, Nebraska Allendale, Incorporated. The risk of. Thanks to our friends from Allendale for bringing the final numbers of trade. Thanks to all of our guests on today's program on Back Roads of Illinois. We're running out of time on our show, but you can listen to our show on YouTube and whenever you get your podcast. This has been Back Roads of Illinois. I'm Cesar Delgado. Have a great day.